The survey ship drifted through the darkness of space, its sensors sweeping across another unremarkable star system. Captain Zexthor had done this 1,000 times before. His 6 eyes scanned the data streams with practiced boredom. Another yellow star. Another collection of rocky planets. Nothing special. Then the sensors started screaming. "Captain," his science officer called out, her voice tight with confusion. "I'm detecting organized electromagnetic radiation. Complex patterns. This system is broadcasting signals." Zexthor felt his blood chill. Organized signals meant technology. Technology meant intelligence. Intelligence meant a discovery that could make or break his career. He moved to the scanner station, his forearms working the controls with sudden intensity. "Impossible," he whispered. This system was marked as dead. No life detected. No technological signatures. How did we miss this? The data kept flowing in. Radio waves, television broadcasts, satellite communications, GPS networks. This wasn't a primitive species taking their first steps. This was a civilization that had spread across their entire planet. "Send the report to the Galactic Council immediately," Zexthor ordered. "Priority 1. We found them." 800 light-years away, Lisa Hayes floated in the cupola of the International Space Station. She loved this spot. The big window gave her a perfect view of Earth below. All blue and white and beautiful. She had been in space for 3 months now, and the view never got old. She was supposed to be checking the solar panel alignment, but the computer was doing most of the work. Lisa let her mind wander as she watched a storm system swirl over the Pacific Ocean. Her daughter was down there somewhere, probably getting ready for school. Lisa missed her every single day. The proximity alarm made her jump. Her coffee pouch went spinning across the module. What the hell? Lisa grabbed the nearest handhold and pulled herself to the control panel. Something was approaching the station. Something big. Something moving way too fast. Her training took over. She hit the emergency comm button. "Houston, this is the ISS. We have an unknown object approaching our position. Speed is..." "That can't be right. ISS, Houston. We see it. Stand by." Lisa pulled up the tracking data on her screen. The object had just appeared out of nowhere, like someone had flipped a switch. No heat signature, no propulsion trail. It was just there, and it was slowing down. The object stopped 10 kilometers from the station. Lisa stared at it through the window. It was smooth and silver, shaped like a teardrop, about the size of a bus. No windows, no markings, no visible engines. "Houston," Lisa said slowly. "I think we have a visitor." Down in California, Jake Morrison had been having a terrible day. His car wouldn't start. His coffee maker broke. His daughter called to tell him she was dropping out of college. And now this. "Run it again," Jake told his assistant. "Check every sensor. Check for malfunctions." "I've run it 5 times, doctor," the young man replied. "All systems are working perfectly. That thing is real. And it's not ours." Jake stared at the data from the Goldstone Observatory. Something had entered Earth's orbit. Something that moved in ways that broke every law of physics he understood. It had accelerated to impossible speeds, stopped instantly, and now it was just sitting there. His phone rang. It was General Price from Space Force Command. "Dr. Morrison, we need you to confirm something for us. Is that thing in orbit what we think it is?" Jake looked at the screen one more time. He thought about all the years of searching, all the theories, all the debates about whether humanity was alone in the universe. "Yes, General," he said quietly. "It's artificial. It's not human technology. We're not alone anymore." The news spread like fire. Within hours, every space agency on Earth was tracking the silver object. Television stations interrupted their normal programming. Social media exploded. Some people celebrated. Some people panicked. Most people just stared at their screens in shock. In Geneva, the United Nations called an emergency session. World leaders appeared on video screens, all talking at once. Everyone had questions. Nobody had answers. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, something even bigger was happening. The Galactic Council's announcement went out on every channel, every frequency, every communication network that connected the 847 civilizations of known space. Discovery confirmed. New intelligent species found. Location: Orion Arm, Sector 19, third planet. Broadcasting begins now. Trillions of beings tuned in. The discovery of a new species was always big news, but this one was special. This planet had been missed, hidden, overlooked for thousands of years. The mistakes that had allowed this to happen were embarrassing to the Council, but the public didn't care about politics. They wanted to see the new species. The first images of Earth appeared on screens across the galaxy. Viewers saw a blue planet covered in water and clouds. They saw massive cities lit up at night. They saw ships crossing oceans and aircraft filling the skies. They saw a species that had spread across every continent of their world. The betting markets opened within minutes. How would these new creatures react to first contact? Would they panic and destroy themselves? Would they beg for protection? Would they try to attack? The odds heavily favored panic. That's what most species did. On the Council's observation deck, Director Vaxaslan watched the images from Earth with growing unease. Something felt wrong. This species had developed too fast. Their technology was crude, but innovative. Their planet showed signs of constant warfare, yet they hadn't destroyed themselves. They were aggressive, but also collaborative. Prepare the standard first contact message, he ordered. All languages. Standard protocols. Let's see how they respond to authority. The message was crafted by the Council's best linguists. It was designed to be reassuring but firm, welcoming but clear about the hierarchy. The Council had done this hundreds of times before. They knew what they were doing, or so they thought. The message transmitted to Earth in 4,000 different languages simultaneously. It appeared on every screen, every radio, every communication device on the planet. The words were simple and direct. Greetings, primitive ones. You have been discovered by the Galactic Council. Remain calm. We bring order to chaos. Your planet will be evaluated. Obey our instructions, and you will be safe. Resist, and you will be removed. We await your submission. In the First Contact Command Center in Geneva, Ryan Torres read the message 3 times. Then he read it again. Around him, diplomats and scientists argued about how to respond. Some wanted to be cautious. Some wanted to be friendly. Some wanted to hide. Ryan listened to them all. Then he made a decision that would change galactic history. He sat down at the communication console and typed out a response. It was short. It was simple. It was very human. Thanks for stopping by. We've been expecting someone to show up eventually. But if you want to talk, let's talk as equals. We don't do the whole submission thing. Try again with more respect, or don't bother. He hit send before anyone could stop him. Across the galaxy, 4 trillion beings watched in stunned silence as the message appeared on their screens. In 50,000 years of recorded contact, no newly discovered species had ever responded like this. The galactic internet broke from the traffic surge. Everyone was talking about the humans, these strange, bold, impossible creatures who had just told the most powerful government in the galaxy to show some respect. The discovery of Earth had been interesting, but humanity's response made it unforgettable. The entire galaxy was watching now, and they couldn't wait to see what happened next. The Galactic Council chamber fell silent. Director Vaxlon stared at the human response on his display screen. His skin changed from its usual purple to a dark red that his species only showed when experiencing extreme confusion. Did they just refuse us? One of the junior council members asked. They did more than refuse. Another replied. They made demands. They want equality. A species that just discovered they're not alone wants to be treated as equals. Vaxlon closed all four of his eyes and tried to think. In his 300 years on the council, we had nous comte state. Nothing like this had ever happened. New species were supposed to be grateful for contact. They were supposed to recognize that the council represented tens of thousands of years of accumulated wisdom and power. They were supposed to know their place. Send another message, he finally said. Explain the situation more clearly. They must not understand how things work. Meanwhile, the galactic public was having a very different reaction. The viewing numbers had jumped from 4 trillion to 8 trillion in less than an hour. Social media platforms across 1,000 worlds were exploding with commentary. Some viewers were outraged by human arrogance, but many more were fascinated. A popular commentator from the Rixian system summed up what many were thinking. For the first time in my lifetime, first contact is actually interesting. These humans have spirit. I want to see what they do next. Back on Earth, Ryan Torres was getting yelled at by approximately 40 world leaders at once. The video conference was chaos. Everyone had an opinion about his response to the aliens. Most of those opinions were negative. You could have started a war, the French president shouted. You made us look weak, argued a general from China. You should have consulted us first, complained the British Prime Minister. Ryan waited for them to finish. Then he spoke calmly. With respect, we had seconds to respond. The message was broadcasting to the entire planet. Everyone saw it. Everyone saw them call us primitive and demand submission. If I had agreed to that, we would have looked weak. Instead, I drew a line. Now they know, we won't be pushed around. But what if they attack? Someone asked. Then we fight, Ryan said simply. But I don't think they will. They want something from us. Otherwise, they would have just taken it. Into this argument walked Megan Foster. She had been a diplomat for 20 years, serving in embassies around the world. She spoke 7 languages fluently and understood the subtle art of negotiation better than anyone Ryan knew. She was also his ex-wife, which made things awkward. But right now, Earth needed her skills. He's right, Megan said as she entered the room. The Council's message was a test. They wanted to see if we would immediately submit, like other species probably do. Ryan called their bluff. Now we need to follow up with something constructive. She moved to the communication console. Let me handle the next message. I'll be diplomatic, but firm. We need to establish respect, without starting a fight. The world leaders reluctantly agreed. Megan spent 2 hours crafting a response. When she was finished, she hit send and hoped for the best. Her message was different from Ryan's. It acknowledged the Council's power and experience. It expressed humanity's desire to learn and grow, but it also made clear that Earth would not accept being treated as inferior. She proposed a cultural exchange. Let us show you who we are, she wrote. Then decide if we deserve respect. The response came 6 hours later. The Council agreed to the exchange. They would send a delegation to observe Earth. In return, they would broadcast what they learned to the entire galaxy. Everything would be public. Everything would be transparent. They're putting us on trial, Ryan said when he read the message. They want the galaxy to judge us. Then, let's give them something worth watching, Megan replied. The Earth Culture Project launched within days. Every nation contributed. Artists, scientists, philosophers, musicians, and thinkers from around the world volunteered to represent humanity to the stars. The pressure was enormous. Billions of humans watched as their planet prepared to be judged by an audience of trillions. Megan led the first presentation. She stood in front of cameras that were broadcasting to more viewers than had ever watched anything in galactic history. She was terrified. But she didn't let it show. She started with music. A symphony orchestra played Beethoven's Ninth. Megan watched the galactic chat feeds as she listened. The aliens had never heard anything like it. Their music was mathematical, precise, calculated. Human music was emotional, chaotic, passionate. It confused them. It moved them. They couldn't stop listening. Next came art. The Mona Lisa, Starry Night, cave paintings from 40,000 years ago, sculptures from ancient Greece, modern digital installations. The aliens saw how humans captured emotion and meaning in color and form. They saw creativity that didn't follow rules or logic. They saw beauty born from imperfection. Then Megan introduced literature and philosophy. She read from Shakespeare, from Maya Angelou, from ancient Chinese texts and medieval Persian poetry. She presented philosophical ideas from every culture on Earth. The aliens discovered that humans had spent thousands of years asking the same questions that the galaxy had asked. Why are we here? What is right and wrong? What gives life meaning? The viewing numbers kept climbing. 12 trillion, 15 trillion, 20 trillion. The entire galaxy was watching. But the moment that changed everything came on day 3 of the broadcast. Chris Palmer, a quantum physicist from MIT, was demonstrating human mathematics. He was supposed to show basic equations, simple proofs. Nothing too complicated. The goal was just to prove that humans understood fundamental concepts. Chris got bored with the basic stuff. On a whim, he pulled up something more interesting. It was called the Velkara theorem, a mathematical proof that the galaxy's best minds had been trying to solve for 3,000 years. Chris had read about it in the Council's public database. It involved quantum mechanics and dimensional mathematics. He stared at it for a few minutes. Then he started writing equations on the screen. He used human mathematical notation. He applied theories that humans had developed independently. He worked through the problem step by step. 40 minutes later, he had the solution. The galactic feed went wild. Chris didn't understand what he had done. To him, it was just an interesting math problem. He didn't know that thousands of alien scientists had dedicated their entire careers to solving it. He didn't know that 3 separate species had built supercomputers specifically to crack this proof. He didn't know that he had just accomplished something that the galaxy thought was nearly impossible. Did I do it right? Chris asked the camera nervously. In the council chamber, Vaxlon watched his own mathematicians verify the solution. It was correct. Completely correct. And the human had done it with primitive tools and methods that were barely a few hundred years old. How? Vaxlon whispered. How is this possible? His science advisor spoke carefully. Director, I think we may have underestimated this species. Significantly. The galactic internet crashed 3 times that day from the sheer volume of traffic. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know everything about humans. What else could they do? What other problems could they solve? What else had the galaxy been missing? The betting markets reversed overnight. The odds on humans failing their evaluation dropped to almost 0. New bets appeared. How long until humans develop faster than light travel? How long until they solve other impossible problems? How long until they change the galaxy? Megan watched the reaction with satisfaction. They had proven something important. Humans might be new to the galactic stage, but they weren't primitive. They weren't inferior. They were different. And that difference had value. Good job, Chris, she said to the physicist, who still looked confused by all the attention. I just did some math, he replied. You did more than that, Megan told him. You made them respect us. In his observation chamber, Vaxlon made a decision. The standard evaluation wasn't going to work with humans. They needed something different. Something harder. Something that would truly test what these creatures were capable of. He called for the council to convene. They would issue the trial of worth. 3 challenges designed to break the spirit of any species arrogant enough to think they deserved equal status. Most species failed the trials. Those who did were humiliated, broken, and relegated to the lowest ranks of galactic society. But watching the humans solve the impossible, Vaxlon felt something he hadn't experienced in decades. Uncertainty. What if the humans didn't fail? What if they succeeded? What would that mean for the galaxy? The broadcast continued. Earth showed the stars who they were, and the stars couldn't look away. The announcement of the trial of worth sent shockwaves through Earth. The Galactic Council had made it official. Humanity would face 3 challenges to prove they deserved equal status. Failure meant being classified as a junior species, with limited rights and restricted technology access for at least 1,000 years. Director Vaxlon delivered the news personally via broadcast. These trials have been used for 10,000 years. Only 12 species have ever passed all 3. Most fail the first challenge. Those who fail learn humility and accept their place in the galactic order. Across Earth, reactions were mixed. Some governments wanted to refuse the trials entirely. Others argued that Earth should accept junior status peacefully. But most people wanted to try. The past weeks had shown humanity something important about themselves. They were capable of more than they knew. The first challenge was announced 3 days later. Humanity had to construct a ship capable of faster-than-light travel, using only resources available on Earth. Most species were given 20 years to complete this task. The Council generously offered humans 10 years. "We'll do it in 6 months," announced Kate Sullivan. Kate was an engineer who had worked on experimental propulsion systems for NASA. She was brilliant, stubborn, and completely fearless. When the world needed someone to lead the impossible project, she volunteered immediately. 6 months is crazy," her supervisor told her. "So is everything else we've done lately," Kate replied. "Besides, we have one advantage. We're really good at working under pressure." The project was called Pioneer. Kate assembled a team of 40,000 people from 80 different countries. Every nation contributed. The European Space Consortium provided engine designs. The Asian Space Coalition shared advanced materials. American engineers worked alongside Russian physicists, African programmers, Australian navigators, and scientists from every corner of Earth. The galaxy watched with curiosity. Most observers expected humans to fight among themselves. That's what species usually did under pressure. Competition, jealousy, national pride, getting in the way of cooperation. But something different happened. Ben Carter, the project coordinator, established a system where information flowed freely between all teams. Every discovery was shared immediately. Every breakthrough was celebrated together. When one team hit a problem, others jumped in to help. "We're not competing against each other," Ben explained to a reporter. "We're competing against the clock and the expectations of an entire galaxy. That means we work together, or we fail together." The construction took place in the Mojave Desert. A massive facility rose from the sand in weeks. Materials arrived from around the world. The ship took shape slowly at first, then faster as the teams found their rhythm. Kate barely slept. She survived on coffee and determination. Every day brought new problems. The engine design worked in theory but kept failing in practice. The hull materials couldn't withstand the stress tests. The navigation systems couldn't calculate jumps accurately enough. But every day, the team found solutions. Sometimes through brilliant innovation. Sometimes through stubborn trial and error. Sometimes through sheer luck. With 1 month left, the ship was 80% complete. Then, disaster struck. A critical component failed during testing. It would take weeks to manufacture a replacement. Weeks they didn't have. Kate stared at the broken component for 3 hours. Then she called a physicist in Japan, named Dr. Yuki Tanaka. "Can we bypass it entirely if we restructure the power flow?" Yuki thought about it. "Maybe. But we'd need to recalculate everything. And we'd need a new power distribution system." "How long?" 3 weeks if we're lucky. "We have 1 month. Let's do it." They restructured the entire power system in 20 days. It shouldn't have been possible. But the team worked around the clock, making connections and calculations that would have taken years under normal circumstances. On the final day of the 6th month, the Pioneer sat on the launch pad. It wasn't beautiful. It was cobbled together from a dozen different designs and technologies. It looked like something built by people who were making things up as they went along, because that's exactly what it was. The test flight was broadcast to 30 trillion viewers. Kate sat in the pilot seat with a crew of 5. Her hands shook as she started the launch sequence. This was it. If the ship worked, humanity passed the first challenge. If it failed, everyone would know that humans had reached their limit. Beginning launch sequence, Kate said into the comm. Let's see if this thing flies. The engines roared to life. The ship lifted smoothly from the pad, rising into the atmosphere. So far, so good. They reached orbit without problems. Kate checked all systems. Everything was green. All right, she said. Let's try faster than light. Calculating jump. The navigation computer worked through the equations. A jump point appeared on the screen. It was just a short hop, only a few light years. But it would prove that the technology worked. Engaging FTL drive in 3, 2, 1. The ship vanished from Earth's orbit. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Then the Pioneer reappeared exactly where the calculations said it should. A perfect jump, faster than light travel achieved in 6 months. The galactic betting markets crashed again. The odds makers had never seen anything like this. Humanity had completed in 6 months what should have taken 10 years. The council had no choice but to announce that humans had passed the first challenge. Director Vaxlon's congratulations were polite, but strained. This wasn't supposed to happen. The second challenge was diplomatic. Humanity had to negotiate a trade agreement with 3 hostile alien species simultaneously without causing conflict. The 3 species chosen were famous for hating each other. They had been at war for centuries. Getting them to agree on anything was considered impossible. Captain Sophie Wade was chosen to lead the negotiation. Sophie had been a hostage negotiator for the FBI before joining the diplomatic corps. She was used to dealing with difficult people in tense situations. She approached the challenge like she approached hostage situations. First, understand what everyone really wants. Second, find common ground. Third, make everyone feel like they won. The 3 species were the Mantok, the Shen, and the Voral. The Mantok were warriors who valued strength above all. The Shen were traders who cared only about profit. The Voral were isolationists who trusted no one. Sophie met with each species separately first. She didn't try to sell them anything. She just listened. What did they need? What were they afraid of? What did they really want? With the Mantok, she discovered they needed raw materials for their military, but had no way to get them without looking weak by asking for help. With the Shen, she learned they wanted access to new markets, but were blocked by old grudges. With the Voral, she found they were desperate for medical technology, but too proud to admit it. Sophie saw the solution immediately. The Mantok had materials the Shen wanted. The Shen had trading routes the Voral needed. The Voral had medical knowledge the Mantok could use. Each species had something the others needed, but their hatred prevented them from working together. She brought all 3 species together and presented a simple idea. What if you don't trade with each other? What if you all trade with Earth? And Earth facilitates exchanges between you. That way, nobody has to deal directly with their enemies. The Mantok representative growled. You expect us to trust you? No, Sophie said. I expect you to trust your own self-interest. Earth gets a small percentage of each trade. You get what you need without dealing with people you hate. Everyone wins. It took 2 weeks of negotiation, but eventually all 3 species agreed. They signed a trade agreement that made Earth a neutral trading hub. For the first time in 300 years, the 3 species were cooperating, even if it was only indirectly. The galaxy watched in amazement. The Council had designed this challenge to be impossible. They never expected anyone to succeed. But Sophie had done more than succeed. She had created something that might actually bring peace to a war-torn region of space. The Council's approval rating dropped 10 points overnight. Citizens across the galaxy started asking uncomfortable questions. If humans could solve problems that the Council called impossible, what else was the Council wrong about? Director Vaxlon knew he had a problem. 2 challenges down, and humans had passed both. The third challenge had to stop them. It had to humble them. It had to show the galaxy that the Council's way was still the right way. He called for the final challenge to begin. This one would be different. This one would be about survival. And this one, Vaxlon was certain, would finally break the humans. The announcement went out across all channels. The third trial begins now. Humanity must defend themselves against a simulated invasion from the Kresh warrior fleet. You have 1 week to prepare. No species has ever passed this test. We expect you to learn humility. The Kresh were the most feared military force in the galaxy. Their tactics were perfect. Their warriors were unstoppable. The simulation was designed to be unwinnable. Its purpose wasn't to test combat ability. It was to teach new species that they needed the Council's protection. But as the humans began analyzing the challenge, they weren't thinking about losing. They were thinking about something else entirely, something that would change everything. Commander Alex Brennan had spent 20 years in the Marine Corps studying warfare. He had read every military text, from Sun Tzu to modern tactical manuals. He had trained soldiers, planned operations, and studied battles throughout human history. When he was assigned to analyze the Kresh simulation, he approached it like any other military problem. He spent 3 days watching recordings of Kresh battles. The Galactic Council provided extensive archives. The Kresh had fought hundreds of wars across thousands of years. Their record was nearly perfect. Species that fought them usually surrendered within hours. On the 4th day, Alex called a meeting with his team. I found something. The Kresh are predictable. Predictable? Asked Lieutenant Commander Sarah Kim. They've never lost a major battle. Exactly, Alex said. They've never lost, so they've never had to adapt. Their tactics are perfect for fighting species that follow galactic military doctrine, but we don't follow that doctrine. We don't even know what it is. He pulled up a battle simulation on the screen. Watch this. The Kresh always open with overwhelming force on the center. They expect the enemy to reinforce the center, which weakens the flanks. Then they hit the flanks hard and encircle the enemy. It works every single time, because everyone responds the same way. So, what do we do differently? Sarah asked. We don't reinforce the center. We abandon it completely. We pull everything to the flanks before they can encircle us. Then, we hit them from behind, while they're confused. Another officer spoke up. That violates every principle of defensive warfare. You never give up the center. That violates C. That violates problem sin. Only if you're trying to hold ground, Alex replied. But in space, there is no ground. There's just position. And I'd rather have bad position and mobility than good position and be surrounded. The team spent the next 3 days developing tactics that broke every rule in the Galactic Military Handbook. They planned ambushes, false retreats, and coordinated strikes that looked like chaos but were carefully calculated. They studied Earth's own military history, from guerrilla warfare to naval tactics to fighter jet dogfights. Alex compiled everything into a report. Then he did something that shocked his superiors. He released the entire report publicly. Every tactic, every weakness he had found in Kresh warfare, every strategy humans planned to use. He published it all on the Open Galactic Network for anyone to access. Are you crazy? General Price demanded when he found out. You just gave away our entire battle plan. Yes, sir, Alex replied calmly. And I gave it to everyone else too. There are dozens of species who have suffered under Kresh aggression for centuries. Now they know how to fight back, but the Kresh will see it too. They'll know what we're planning. Let them, Alex said. Knowing something intellectually is different from adapting to it under pressure. Besides, I have a feeling this is going to get bigger than just a simulation. He was right. Within 24 hours of Alex's report going public, 3 major species who had been Kresh tributaries started adapting the human tactics. Military analysts across the galaxy began discussing the weaknesses Alex had identified. The Kresh, proud and arrogant, publicly denounced the report as nonsense, but privately, the Kresh War Council was furious. A primitive species had just exposed flaws in their perfect military system, flaws that the galaxy now knew about. This could not stand. The Kresh issued a formal challenge. They would not participate in a simulation. They demanded a real battle against the humans, with the entire galaxy watching. If humanity won, the Kresh would submit to detailed study of their military by anyone who wanted to learn. If the Kresh won, humanity would become a Kresh client state. The Galactic Council tried to forbid it. This is not protocol, Director Vaxlon argued. The challenge was supposed to be a simulation, but 40 trillion viewers disagreed. The galactic public demanded to see the battle. Social media movements formed across 1,000 worlds. Protests erupted. For the first time in 30,000 years, the council was overruled by popular demand. The battle would happen. Commander Lauren Price was chosen to lead the Earth fleet. She had been a Navy pilot before joining Space Force. She was aggressive, creative, and absolutely fearless. When offered command of 12 ships against 200 Kresh warships, she didn't hesitate. "We've faced worse odds before," she told her crew, which was technically a lie, but it sounded good. The battle location was set in neutral space, equidistant from Earth and Kresh territory. The entire galaxy tuned in to watch. This wasn't just about humanity anymore. This was about whether the Kresh were truly invincible, whether the old order could be challenged. Lauren's fleet consisted of 12 ships, each one crewed by volunteers. They were outgunned, outnumbered, and flying vessels that were barely tested. But they had Alex's tactical analysis and months of training in techniques the Kresh had never encountered. The Kresh fleet arrived in perfect formation. 200 ships arranged in an intimidating display of power. Their commander, war leader Kresh Vol, broadcast a message to the humans. "Surrender now, and your deaths will be honorable. Fight, and we will destroy you, slowly." Lauren's response was short. "Come and get us." The Kresh charged. Their entire fleet surged forward in a massive wave, focusing on the center of the human formation exactly as Alex predicted. Standard doctrine said the humans should reinforce the center, meet force with force. Instead, Lauren ordered the center to scatter. The 6 ships in the middle broke formation and fled in different directions. The Kresh, expecting resistance, found themselves chasing targets that refused to fight. While the Kresh were confused, Lauren took the remaining 6 ships on a hard burn around the Kresh flank. They came in fast from behind, hitting the rear of the Kresh formation with every weapon they had. 12 Kresh ships took critical damage before they could react. The proud warriors tried to turn their fleet around, but 200 ships don't turn quickly. By the time they reorganized, the human ships had scattered again. For the next 4 hours, the battle played out like a deadly game of tag. The humans refused to engage in direct combat. They struck from unexpected angles, used debris fields for cover, and exploited every environmental advantage. When the Kresh adapted to one tactic, the humans switched to another. Commander Dan Foster, leading one of the strike groups, pulled off a maneuver that became famous across the galaxy. His ship flew directly at 3 Kresh vessels, weapons blazing. The Kresh assumed he was making a suicide run and braced for impact. At the last second, Dan's ship went dark, cutting all power. The Kresh weapons targeted the ship's energy signature. With no signature, they lost target lock. Dan's ship drifted past the Kresh vessels like dead debris. Once clear, power came back online, and Dan attacked from behind at point-blank range. 3 Kresh ships, disabled in 30 seconds. The galaxy watched in shock. The humans weren't winning through superior technology or firepower. They were winning through creativity, deception, and absolutely no respect for conventional warfare. By hour 3, the Kresh had lost 73 ships. Not destroyed, but disabled. The humans had carefully targeted engines and weapons while avoiding kill shots. This confused the Kresh even more. Warriors fought to kill or be killed. Mercy, in battle, was weakness. But Lauren wasn't showing mercy. She was proving a point. When Kreshvol finally called for a ceasefire, his flagship was surrounded by 6 human ships, all weapons locked on target. He could keep fighting and die, or he could do something no Kresh commander had done in 2,000 years. He surrendered. The galactic feed nearly crashed from the response. The Kresh were supposed to be invincible. They had terrified the galaxy for millennia, and a species that had just learned about alien life a few months ago had beaten them decisively. Lauren's final transmission to Kreshvol was broadcast to every corner of known space. "We disabled your ships, but didn't destroy them because we're not trying to prove we're the strongest. We're proving there's a better way. War doesn't have to end in extermination. It can end in understanding." She paused, then added, "Also, you fight the same way every time. You should probably work on that." Across the galaxy, military academies requested copies of Alex's tactical analysis. Species that had never challenged Kresh dominance started rethinking their defensive strategies. The betting markets went wild with speculation about what else humans might change. The Kresh, to their credit, honored their agreement. War leader Kreshvol requested a meeting with Alex and Lauren. He wanted to understand how they had done it, how they had seen weaknesses that the galaxy had missed for thousands of years. "You never adapted because you never had to," Alex explained. "Strength became your weakness. Victory became your blind spot." Kreshvol was silent for a long time. Then he asked a question that surprised everyone. "Will you teach us? Will you help us become better warriors?" Lauren smiled. "Of course. That's what we've been trying to do all along." The trial of worth was over. Humanity had passed all 3 challenges in ways the Council never anticipated. They built a ship in record time. They brokered peace between ancient enemies. They defeated the galaxy's most feared warriors without killing a single opponent. But as celebrations erupted on Earth and across the galaxy, one person wasn't celebrating. Dr. Matt Richardson, a xenoanthropologist who had been studying the Council's historical records, had found something disturbing. Earth had been discovered before, multiple times, and each time, the records had been sealed and hidden. Someone had been suppressing humanity's existence for thousands of years. Matt stared at the encrypted files on his screen. Whatever was hidden in these records, it was big enough that someone had gone to enormous lengths to keep it secret. He needed to know why. And he had a feeling the answer would change everything. Dr. Matt Richardson had always been curious. That curiosity had made him a good scientist, but a terrible rule follower. When he found encrypted files in the Galactic Archive that mentioned Earth, he knew he should report them to proper authorities. Instead, he called Emma Collins. Emma was a hacker, one of the best on Earth. She had spent years breaking into corporate databases and government systems before deciding to use her skills for more interesting purposes. When Matt explained what he needed, she didn't hesitate. "Encrypted alien files about Earth's secret history?" Emma said over the video call. "That's the most interesting thing anyone's asked me to do in years. Send me what you've got." Working together across continents, Matt and Emma spent 2 weeks cracking the encryption. The security was old, designed thousands of years ago. It was sophisticated for its time but couldn't stand up to modern human computing methods. When the files finally opened, what they found inside made Matt's hands shake. The first document was dated 12,000 years ago. A survey ship had discovered Earth during humanity's ancient civilizations. Humans had just invented agriculture, and were building their first cities. The survey team had reported their findings to what was then called the Old Dominion, the government that came before the current Galactic Council. The Old Dominion's response was chilling. Species shows dangerous rate of innovation. Potential threat to galactic stability, if allowed to develop, unchecked. Recommend immediate quarantine and suppression of all records. Matt kept reading. There were more discoveries documented. One from 6,000 years ago, another from 3,000 years ago. Each time, human development had accelerated beyond what the observers thought was possible. Each time, the decision was the same. Hide Earth. Keep humanity isolated. Prevent contact. They were afraid of us, Matt whispered. All this time, they were afraid of what we might become. Emma had found something else in the files. Technical schematics. Matt, look at this. They built a containment field around Earth's entire solar system. It's been masking our electromagnetic signatures for thousands of years. That's why we were missed, Matt said. The field made Earth look like a dead system. But it's degrading now. That's why we were finally detected. There's more. The field wasn't just some Old Dominion project. Look at who signed off on maintenance and updates for the past 2,000 years. Matt looked at the names. His blood ran cold. Council members. Current council members. Including Director Vaxislan himself. They knew, Matt said. The council knew about us and kept it secret. They've been lying to the entire galaxy. What do we do with this? Emma asked. Matt thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. They posted the files on the Galactic Network. Every document. Every schematic. Every authorization code. They made it impossible to delete or suppress. Within an hour, the information had spread to every connected system in known space. The reaction was explosive. 6 trillion beings downloaded the files in the first day. The revelations sparked the largest protest movement in galactic history. Citizens across 1,000 worlds demanded that the council leadership resign. The betrayal was profound. The council had been built on principles of knowledge and discovery. Yet they had hidden an entire species out of fear. On Earth, the news hit hard. People were angry, confused, and hurt. They had been quarantined like a disease, kept isolated not for their protection but because someone decided they were too dangerous to exist freely. Kevin Park, a captain in the Space Force, took the revelations personally. He led a team to search Earth's orbit for physical evidence. What they found confirmed the worst. Dozens of ancient satellites were scattered around Earth's solar system, slowly degrading but still partially functional. They were the source of countless UFO sightings throughout human history, the containment field breaking down over centuries. They watched us, Kevin reported to Earth's leadership. For thousands of years, they watched us and did nothing. They let us struggle alone because they were afraid of us. The Galactic Council tried to respond. Director Vaxilon appeared on a broadcast, attempting to explain. The decision to quarantine Earth was made for the stability of the galaxy. Humanity's rapid development presented risks that needed to be managed. The response from the galactic public was immediate and harsh. You don't get to decide who has the right to exist freely, posted one prominent Rixian commentator. You don't get to hide people because you're afraid of them. Protest movements erupted on 300 worlds. Young species, inspired by humanity's defiance, began challenging the hierarchies that had controlled them. The Council's approval rating dropped to 3%, the lowest ever recorded. But amidst the chaos and anger, one voice called for something different. Ambassador Amy Lawson had been working with the Council for months now, building relationships and understanding how galactic politics worked. She saw an opportunity in the crisis. She requested to address the Galactic Council directly. They agreed, hoping she might calm the situation. Instead, she changed everything. Amy stood before the assembled council members and 8 trillion viewers watching the broadcast. She spoke calmly and clearly. What was done to Earth was wrong, she began. We were hidden, isolated, and denied our right to be part of the galactic community. We should be angry. Many of us are. But anger alone doesn't build a better future. She paused, letting her words settle. Humanity didn't pass your trials to prove we're superior. We passed them to prove we're ready. Ready to be partners, not subjects. Ready to contribute, not just consume. Ready to help build something better than what came before. Amy pulled up a holographic display. These are proposals from Earth. New approaches to first contact protocols. Reforms to make the Council more transparent. Systems to give younger species more voice in galactic decisions. We're not asking for revenge. We're offering partnership. The council chamber was silent. Director Vaxlon finally spoke. You would help us? After what we did? Yes, Amy said simply. Because holding grudges doesn't change anything. But working together might change everything. The proposal went to a galactic vote. It was the first time in 30,000 years that the public had been asked to vote directly on major council policy. The results were overwhelming. 94% in favor of reform. 87% in favor of granting Earth full council membership with no probationary period. The vote had one more surprising result. Director Vaxlon resigned. In his resignation speech, he acknowledged his mistakes and called for new leadership. Perhaps I am too old to see what the galaxy is becoming. Perhaps it's time for new voices to lead us. The reforms took time. Months of negotiation. Hundreds of policies rewritten. But slowly, the galaxy began to change. The council opened up, became more transparent, more responsive to the beings it served. Younger species gained representation. Knowledge sharing increased, and Earth became a symbol. Not of human superiority, but of what was possible when people refused to accept limitations. 5 years after first contact, Commander Lisa Hayes stood on the bridge of the Voyager 2. The ship was Earth's first deep space exploration vessel, built with technology shared freely between humans and dozens of alien species. The crew was a mix of 40 different species, all working together. They were about to jump to a distant galaxy cluster that no one had explored before. It was dangerous. It was exciting. It was exactly the kind of thing that humans loved, and that they had inspired others to love too. All systems ready, Commander, reported the navigation officer, a Rixian named Telvax. Engineering confirms jump capability, added the chief engineer, a human woman named Grace Chen. Lisa looked around the bridge. Humans, Kresh, Shen, Rixian, and species she had never heard of before first contact all working together. It was beautiful. All right, everyone, Lisa said. Let's see what's out there. Engage, jump drive. The ship vanished from known space, leaping into the unknown. Back on Earth, her daughter watched the jump with millions of other students. They were learning alongside alien children now, sharing classrooms across light years of distance. The future was strange and uncertain, but it was theirs to shape together. In the rebuilt council chambers, Amy Lawson worked with representatives from 100 species on new exploration initiatives. The galaxy had caught humanity's curiosity. They wanted to see what else they had been missing. What other wonders waited to be discovered. Matt Richardson and Emma Collins had become celebrities. They traveled the galaxy giving talks about truth, transparency, and the importance of challenging authority when it served fear instead of wisdom. Young people across countless worlds listened and learned. The Kresh had reformed their military based on human principles. They became peacekeepers instead of conquerors. War leader Kresh Vol, now simply called Kresh Vol, worked with Alex Brennan to train combined forces in new tactical thinking. And on 1,000 worlds, people who had felt powerless found their voices. They organized. They demanded change. They built coalitions. They learned that the way things had always been done didn't have to be the way things were always done. The galaxy that discovered Earth was not the galaxy that existed 5 years later. Humans hadn't conquered anyone. They hadn't imposed their will. They had simply shown an alternative. And the galaxy, tired of old ways and old fears, had chosen to try something new. Lisa recorded a final message from the Voyager 2 before they jumped beyond communication range. It would take years to reach Earth. But she wanted her daughter to hear it. They found us because we were impossible to ignore. We changed them because we refused to be anything less than ourselves. And now, together, we're going to see what else is out there. The universe is bigger than any of us imagined. And we get to explore it together. The ship jumped again, disappearing into the vast unknown. Behind them, the galaxy watched not with amazement at humanity's strangeness, but with excitement for what they would all discover together. The age of isolation had ended. The age of cooperation had begun. And it all started because one species looked at the stars and refused to bow.